Hey, what's going on guys? Heads here from Infinity Loops and welcome back. Today we are taking a look at the FlyLens 85 by Flywoo. Now before we get into some flights and the week that I spent flying this, and my thoughts on it, let's go over some specs about the quad real quick. First off, the flight controller we are working with is the Goku 1-2S 12 amp all-in-one. That comes equipped with ELRS 3 as well as a 400 milliwatt VTX. We will be looking at flight footage from two different cameras today. The first will be analog footage from the Caddx H1 microcam that comes on here. This is the analog edition, so that will be your analog footage, and then later on we'll see some HD footage as well. This bind and fly here comes with the Robo 1003 motors, which are 14,800 kV, and the propellers are going to be the 2015 2-inch biblades. Just a few things I thought I would mention, some surface level stuff that I noticed that I thought was kind of neat about this quad in particular. Firstly is this dampening platform, I believe is what they call it, but it's a 3-point mounting system that they have where the main body of the quad has these 3 gummies, and that 3 gummies has a small platform on top of it that houses your analog camera. So while you're flying, your analog camera is kind of riding on this platform of gummies. It's really neat. I just thought it was a really cool idea. I also thought I should mention that the outer ring that you see on it that the LEDs go through, that is injection molded and so far pretty tough. It's taken some crashes and some bashing, and it's held together quite well so far. Speaking of the LEDs, on our version here we have the blue ones, so shout out Mr. Burns. According to their website, it says this is compatible with 6 small action cameras. You will notice that the Peanut is not on that list. However, I flew mine with the Peanut on it because don't tell me what to do. There is an XT30 plug, which our flight controller can take up to 2S batteries. So I believe they recommended 750 milliamp 2S batteries for this. I don't have any of those readily available. So instead we're going to be flying it on 450s, which not the best. It's obviously not recommended. So when we talk about flight times in this review, we're going to want to factor that in, that I'm not flying it on the recommended cell size. They actually recommend that it's a little larger milliamp than what I'm going to be using. Now, I think that is probably enough about the quad. We can get into some flight footage now. First, we're going to take a look at the analog footage, and then we'll see a mixture of the analog footage as well as some HD footage from that illegal Caddx Peanut that I mounted on the top. It's not supposed to fit. Did it anyways. we've had a chance to see some flight footage, what do we think? First off, I just want to mention that even without using the recommended battery, a pretty significant difference actually by using a 450 over a 750, I was still able to get 2 to 2.5 minutes of flight time while carrying the Peanut with my big chunky mount for the Peanut on there as well. I don't have any complaints with that. I think that's actually fairly good performance for a 450 battery. With all the weight that I added onto it, I think that's pretty good. As far as flight characteristics are concerned, when you remove that heavy Peanut and mount that I made from the build, it actually flies really well. For those of you that have ever tried to freestyle, not necessarily a cinewhoop, but whatever we're calling these, they're not ducted. They kind of just have that protective rim as opposed to the big tall ducts that we're used to seeing on cinewhoops. This, whatever this style is that we're calling it, if you've ever tried to freestyle one of those, it has this odd movement to it. It's not bad. It's not shutters or yaw washout or anything like that. It's kind of just strange. It just moves strange in the air, probably because it's not meant to be flown that way, but it's still totally doable. Even with an action camera on it, getting a couple trippy spins in here and there, which usually puts tons of stress on a battery, even that was pretty doable. The battery just recovered a little bit after doing it, but it wasn't bad. I actually thought it performed really well without the action camera on it, just as a quad as a whole. And speaking of that outer rim, again, like I said in the intro, that it is pretty robust. It's so far, I've had a couple decent crashes with it. Not saying it's built to crash or anything like that, but so far, I haven't even chipped it, and I've taken a couple hard hits down in the driveway. I smacked into the tree once, and I crashed once in the backyard when I was coming into land. It wasn't too catastrophic, but the other ones were a little harder hits, and so far it's okay. Not going to say that this frame is indestructible or anything because I haven't really put it through that kind of testing, but just in my general usage of it for the last week, it's been pretty good. Now, all of that is the good pile, and now on to the only complaint I really could find about this build, and I'm not 100% sure that it's the build's fault or if I just got unlucky or if it's something to do with my equipment mismatching with it. I don't know, but you may have noticed in some of the analog footage, I'll try to include a clip of it here. Sometimes the VTX would just go out completely, or maybe just the camera did, but it would just go black for just a moment and then it would come back. It always came back, it never went out completely. I'm not sure what that is. Sometimes I was very close to myself and it would happen, sometimes a little further away, but it was very odd. I don't get that with any of my other quads. I've flown other stuff throughout the week and it wasn't happening with those. So again, could be the build. I'm not willing to say that it's not like a mismatch of my receiver that I'm using on my goggles versus the VTX that's built in, or perhaps the VTX that's built in is having issues on mine. Don't know. I can't really pinpoint it, so I'm putting that in a flaw, obviously, because it's a glaring one. But again, I don't know who's to blame for that, really. Now, all of those things being considered, the good and the bad, at a price point starting at around, I believe it's $180, and we're talking the analog version. They also have a couple different options you can add on. So you can add on different camera systems to it. You can go HD if you want. You can also add different protocols for your RX on there, depending on what you're using. But if you're looking for a basic cinewhoop, bind and fly, that is decently built as far as able to take a decent hit, or at least some crashes you would take while filming something cinematic and not going too ham on it. If you're just looking for something to carry like a RunCam Thumb or the Caddx Peanut or the Instago, any of those would work great with this. I think if you're looking for that 2S small form factor, something I would feel kind of safe flying around people, maybe not super close, but if I'm flying around a group of people, I would rather fly something small like that than, one of my 3-inch 6S cinewhoops. But I'm also very interested to hear what your opinion is on this. Given the information that I've given you today and the bad and good parts of it, do you agree with the good that I've mentioned? Do you think any of those are actually downsides? I'd love to hear your opinion on it. I always like to hear feedback on these kinds of things because my opinion isn't everything. I would always love to hear how the community likes these things as well. I also wanted to give a big shout out to Flywoo and thank them for sending this over to give us a chance to take a look at it and give our thoughts on it. And lastly, if you yourself are interested in getting this quad, I will leave a link down below where you can get that. If you order it through Flywoo, full disclosure, that is an affiliate link, and we do receive a small kickback here on the channel for that. We thank you if you do choose to use it, but we don't blame you if you choose not to. I'll also leave some links for US distributors that may have it in stock down below if you wanted to get it a little quicker. Other than that, take care of yourselves. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.